Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please. The first order on the agenda is to go out of closed meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Paulettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And the next item is a certification of the closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors in Montgomery County has been convened in closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins? Chair Paulettis?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item on the agenda is our invocation, and if people please take a moment of silence and please rise, and we will consider the business we have going forward. And following our invocation, Mr. Meadows will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item is a presentation for the Montgomery County All-Star Dixie Angel softball team, the 2012 District 6 tournament champions and the Virginia State champion. At this time, we would like to make a presentation to our Dixie Angel State girls. Coaches and Parks and Rec staff, please join at the podium. Let's kind of line up, if you will, please. And the board will come down, and as I call your names, we'll hand out certificates, and Mr. Brown will pass out the certificates. Well, this is really a great honor, man. I understand a lot of you girls from Auburn. From Auburn. That's my district. Young lady himself.
Mr. Chair, would like to show a video before we hand out the certificates, please.
I've got an unfair ball team. I've been a Cubs fan all my life. You girls go out and play then. You'll probably beat them this year. As you can see, these girls learn how to play softball. After winning the state championship, they went on to be our first team to play in the Dixon Angels X-Play World Series held in Troy, Alabama. How did we finish out there?
2-2.
Congratulations, it was wonderful. Now, we're going to pass out the awards, and Vice Chair Mr. Brown is going to hand the certificates out, call out the names. And it's a great honor. First is Terry Boyd. Skylar Behar. You got the Skylar, I know, right? Yes. That's
Yeah, I love that.
You don't remember me? I used to serve you buffalo burgers every day. You know what? Rachel Harding. Rebecca Harding. Leah Harrison. Annie Huff. Mackenzie Lawrence. Courtney Green. Emily Skaggs. Jalen Shepard. Morgan Wade. Abby Wilson.
You must get 2.
You know, somebody wouldn't be
Congratulations.
That's all right, it was for Coach Rick Boyd anyway. So. Louis D. Coach William Harrison. Coach Mike Hinkle. Coach Randy Lawrence.
He's gonna call him tiptoe and try to get him behind the
Manager Lonnie Raines. And Chris Slusher, athletic supervisor.
everybody has to get this in.
And what you really do is stack all the ladies standing on the walls, because that's the back end.
We also like to thank y'all for the donation y'all made. That was possible for us to travel to Alabama.
Yes.
And I'm very glad to do it, and real honored to have you girls. And then I'm going to write this presentation.
Thank you.
Montgomery County on the map.
Can I get y'all to kind of come over this way and get a picture with the board of supervisors? I'm sure the moms want to get a photo of that. Great. Great.
If I come out and do it,
Yeah, go ahead.
Do whatever you need to do.
Can I do this too?
one of them, don't break.
Only 10
There we go.
Thank you.
Let's go, Cisco. That business to attend to.
Well, that's the good part. That's the good business.
Yeah, I like that.
Over like, she's when the babies to come every Saturday and have buffalo.
Get a buffalo burger.
And brother, two brothers, actually. So it's probably been 6 years since it's been.
Wow.
They love when they're young like that, don't they?
That's the way I remember. I think it's, that's when I first looked at it, I thought, oh,
Amen.
I appreciate it so much. I like take time out.
Well, this is the way to start a board meeting. Make the county proud.
They for how many years?
Great bunch of kids.
I tell you, it'll get you then.
The next item on the agenda is a delegation, the Virginia Cooperative Extension. And Michelle Dickerson
Some of them things
and Dawn.
go early in the morning, get back late at night.
So good evening to everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of the successes of 4-H and Cooperative Extension. So it's a lot of good news tonight, so I think we can extend that a little further because we had really good representation from our 4-Hers at state and national events this summer, and I wanted to highlight some of those for you. For the spring months, we finished out all of our after-school programs and school programs, school enrichment programs, but I really wanted to talk to you tonight about some of the successes of our 4-Hers over the summer. And so I have a few slides for you. The first one, get this up here and get it going for you. The first couple of slides are some of our 4-H members in our livestock program, and this is Colby Redifer. And Colby Redifer, along with other members of the 4-H Livestock Club, won the state livestock judging competition last year, and then they went on to the national livestock judging competition. And then Colby did so well in the competition, he was selected to go to the international livestock judging competition, and he traveled to Edinburgh, Scotland this summer and competed in the Royal Highland Show.
Cool.
Placed second overall in beef cattle judging. So he is a second international winner in beef cattle judging. So that's one person we're very proud of, and then two of our other members of the livestock team are Jeremy Perfader and John Klaus, and also we have Jack Redifer and Jacob Bowman they won the state livestock judging competition again this year, and will be going in January to Denver to compete in the national competition again. So our Montgomery County has become the team to beat when it comes to livestock judging and showing, etc. for all of our livestock shows. They've been doing very, very well in both showing and livestock judging. Then I can't not talk about 4-H camp if we're talking about the summer, because we had 172 children, adult volunteers, and teen counselors to attend junior 4-H camp from Montgomery County alone this summer, out of 400 that we camped together between Montgomery, Giles, Craig, and Floyd counties. And so again, 172 of those came from Montgomery County. We had a really successful week, and so just a couple of shots: swimming, climbing. We have about 40 different classes the kids are participating in. And then we also this summer held one of our horse shows. We have 3 active horse clubs in the county now, and this fall, we have 17 that have qualified to go to the state horse competition in Lexington. So that'll be this fall in September. So this was one of our practice shows at Alf and Stewart. We just had it a few weeks ago, and everybody's getting ready for the state show in Lexington. So a couple of shots from some of the kids there. We also had several kids, 4 here to compete at State 4-H Congress in the presentation contest, and we had 4 state winners. So as you can see, they all did very well in their respective categories for presentations. And we had the largest delegation of 4-H members being tapped into 4-H All-Stars this summer. All-Stars is the highest honor that we give in 4-H, and it's an accumulation of project work and presentations and community service and leadership and all of those things that we hope our young people are developing to become responsible adults. And so as you can see, and two of ours aren't in this picture. We had one to get sick on the day of tapping, so we'll have him tapped in next year, both he and his mother, who was an honorary tappee. And then lastly, dear to my heart, I've been working with our wildlife habitat education program team for the last probably 5 years, and they won the state competition this past year and went to the national competition in just outside of Corpus Christi, Kingsville, Texas. And so I was able to travel with them this year. And there were 14 other state teams there, and we placed 4th overall out of the 14 teams. So, and this is our team standing in front of we stayed on the campus of Texas A&M in Kingsville, and this is their mascot, the javelina. So we saw lots of them while we were there. So, and then we have our shooting club, and we have 10 people registered to go to the state shooting competition in just in a couple of weeks, in mid-September. So we have a lot of kids that are going to be competing in that as well. I was able to apply for NRA Foundation grant for this year and receive that back in the spring. So we're going to be able to offer shotgun, skeet, and trap classes, and we have a certified leader that went through certification this past year. So we have a lot of kids involved in shooting sports as well. So those are some of the highlights and some of the successes of our 4-H members, and I think they represented Virginia really well in both state and national competitions. I did want to mention that our A&R program is still very active, and we're very happy to announce that we're going to be able to advertise our A&R position in the first week of September, and we hope to have that filled fairly soon. So hopefully by the holidays we'll have a full staff on board. But the Master Gardeners have been busy this year with just answering client questions and doing a lot of after-school programs and grafting workshops and a number of other things. And she'll be with us next time to give you a report of some of the things going on with Master Gardeners. And Dawn Barnes is here today. She's going to give you a little update on Family and Consumer Sciences.
No pictures, sorry, but I do have a lot of exciting things that have been happening with Family and Consumer Sciences. This spring in May, we had a training for child care providers or early education providers, and we had 133 from the whole New River Valley. The neat thing about that, they are all either licensed or registered, and in order to maintain that quality, they have to receive continuing education hours through the years. And that particular day, that Saturday, is 6 hours of time that they were able to get through professional education, either provided for by extension or partnership with New River Community College and some of the professionals there. One of the successes that I've shared with you in the past are the training of the Master Food Volunteers. And our Master Food Volunteers this year have really been busy doing canning workshops. And a lot of folks think canning workshops are a thing of the past. But let me tell you, from my side of things, we have lots of people that are interested in learning how to can and keep their food that they've grown or they know the local producer and keep it so that they can have it over the year. We did both water bath and pressure canning workshops. What we found out were still, when we had the pressure canning workshop, there are still folks that are doing their green beans by hot water bath. It's a no-no. If you know anyone that's still doing green beans by hot water bath, please tell them to stop doing it. Hot water bath does not kill the botulism, and botulism is an evil thing. So through those workshops, we were able to assure, hopefully, the safety and health of some of the families that were still doing that. We have trained 17 Master Financial Education Volunteers. They have to go through 20 hours of volunteer training. We're just getting them up. That was this spring. And so they will be doing some education in the community and spreading the number of folks that we can touch and educate and make a difference and give them some information about their financial literacy and financial wellness, both youth and adults. So we're excited about that. And if you have any questions or any programming with Family Consumer Sciences, please don't hesitate to give me a call.
Any questions or comments of the board?
What about the young man who's the international winner? Should we have him come here and
Do a
recognize
resolution.
him? I
I
would
think we
think,
should do that.
I mean, to have gone,
I think he would be delighted to do that, so I certainly will invite him for our next meeting if that's okay with you.
If you'll get me the information, Michelle, we'll put
Okay.
something together and have something real
That's
nice.
wonderful. I will tell him. He'll be thrilled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we've always been, for the last few years, we've been touted as being one of the best counties to raise children in, and they're showing us proud now, aren't they? So I'm really, really pleased. And I thank you two gals very much for all you do. The next item on the agenda is public address. I have
Public hearing.
public hearing. I went up too high. Public hearing. The following public hearing was advertised pursuant to law in the Burbs section of the Roanoke Times on August 12th and August 19th of 2012. An ordinance amending Chapter 1 of the Code of Montgomery County, Virginia. And Marty, I guess?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of brief things. The General Assembly at their past session authorized localities to put in place this reimbursement for expenses incurred from methamphetamine lab cleanup. And this is as a result of the epidemic localities are seeing with the use of this methane, and how localities and their law enforcement agencies are incurring expenses as a result of this. I talked with the sheriff today, and he has asked that we adopt this, and it's my understanding the two towns are also considering the same ordinance for their police departments. The sort of expenses the sheriff's incurred to date are related to, once they go in and let's, for lack of a better word, bust a meth lab, they're required to take all the illegal items that are there and get rid of those in the proper way. And he says he incurs expenses there, and they run as high as sometimes $1,800 per incident. There's been some federal money in the past that have helped pay for some of this, but that's starting to go away, and so now I think that's the reason why the state was so supportive of giving us the authority to put in place this ordinance. Where now, should the sheriff go in and incur costs, then we could be reimbursed by, either have it done criminal time through a restitution order by the judge, which is a good way to go because that can be a court order enforced by the court. And the court also has in place a mechanism to make sure that's done. And then, or you can do it by separate civil action, but I think, as Mr. Tuck can verify, I think it's better to go through the court because you have a court order, and then you have the power of the judge who then could, a lot of these people that are convicted or go on probation. Part of the probation is that they pay back restitution, and if they don't pay it back, then they're looking at their sentence being reimposed. And so that's a good way to get guaranteed at least some of our money back. So anyway, we recommend that you consider this at the next meeting. Any questions?
Any questions?
I do agree that doing it through the criminal, one, we aren't tying Marty up, bringing a civil suit. If someone is potentially under a disability, we might have to hire give them an attorney. We do it through the criminal process. It can make it a part of the restitution. At the same time, it's been my experience that individuals that are making meth, this is not your typical drug dealer that's got a new car and cash and all this stuff. This is people who are pretty much broke and they don't have any money, and I don't want to mislead anybody. They're not the odds of us getting a lot of money. In addition to that, there's mandatory prison terms for manufacturing methamphetamines, and depending on how many counts they've got, they may be gone for years, and they aren't required to pay any restitution while they're incarcerated. So,
Any other comments? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this public hearing? If so, please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes, please. Seeing no one, we'll close this public hearing. The next item is public address. There's nobody signed up for this public address. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Please step forward, state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes, please. Hello, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Oh, good evening, everybody. My name is Jack Selkovitz. I live on High Rock Hill Road down in Pilot. And because of this evening's festivities, I thought I'd liven up the place a little bit and give you something to talk about. Last year, about this time, we started seeing a plethora of campaign signs, and then there was some discussion on the board that there's a limitation of size. And because people were running for office last year, you guys kind of put it off into the background. Well, now nobody on this dais is running for office, and I'm starting to see on my way to this meeting some fairly large campaign signs that are out there adjacent to the highways. And I was wondering if you might want to bring up your discussion again on the limitation of size, either to change your existing ordinance, to enlarge it, to eliminate it, or to discuss whether you want to actually have somebody enforce your regulations that are presently in existence.
We didn't fix it.
Thank you.
Didn't we fix it?
We did.
I believe we changed it.
Then we changed it to 4 by 8.
32 square feet, I think, is what, that we did modify it to 32 square feet.
I was pretty sure we did that.
Okay. Thank you.
But they're already popping up all over.
Yeah, they are.
I think some are too big.
All right. We don't have an addendum this evening. The next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Roll call, please.
Ms. Biggs? Aye. Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Chair Lettuce?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item on the agenda is new business. Personal property tax relief percentage for 2012. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just to point out that the rate continues to decline because of the growth in the personal property value. Last year, the rate of relief was 54.16%. This year, it's going to be 51.41. So we're almost down to half, but it's because of the growth in the personal property base.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs? Aye. Chair Lettuce?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And the next item is county attorney's report,
No report, Mr. Chair.
county administrator's report.
Mr. Chair, just a couple of things this evening, and then I'm going to recognize Carol for a few comments as well. Did want to thank everyone again for all the support and the folks that were able to come out to the event at Backcountry on Friday. We had a tremendous turnout for that event. The folks from Utah were very pleased with how the community has received them, and I think everything went very well. We're very pleased to see such a large turnout, and Jeff Hedge, who is the manager there for the facility, said once they get some inventory in and start moving it along, he would like for us to come back and see what's happening, so that would be good. I also wanted to share with you and give credit to Supervisor Tuck for this. It was suggested several months ago that we look at adding the Goodwill Edgar boxes at some of the convenience sites. We got a report 1st of August for the activity in July, and I don't even think this was a complete month. But at the boxes, we have a box at the Reiner convenience site, the Ellett Valley convenience site, and the Price's Fork site. We had a total of 242 donations between the 3 sites, 5,800 pounds of donations. Reiner took in 81 donations, the Ellett Valley site took in 115, and Price's Fork took in 46. and the representative from Goodwill said that the materials that are being donated are excellent, and that everybody seems to think that's working well. So that's great. Good. So we'll try to keep you updated as that moves forward, but that worked well. I want to go ahead and give you 2 save the dates. For those of you that have kids or grandkids or are interested in attending just to see Santa Claus, our breakfast with Santa this year will be on Saturday, December the 8th. And I know that sounds crazy to be talking about it, but the way this year's gone by, it'll be here in a couple of days. And the annual holiday dinner for employees and staff and for you guys as well will be on Friday night, December 14th. So we'll certainly send out stuff in the weeks ahead, but got those dates nailed down and wanted to give them to you. And if I could, I'd like to ask Carol to talk a little bit about an item that we talked about at the extended work session back on July 30th. We had a discussion about trying to get some community meetings set up to begin to get out into the community and talk about issues and topics as we head into the budget year. And so
It's been mentioned, I think Supervisor Biggs has mentioned it a number of years, and every time it seems to be a point in time in the process that we're trying to get the budget done, we're trying to start something else, and then it gets pushed off every year. So this time we decided, let's get ahead of the game. Let's get out here and start talking about how we might do this. It came up in a couple of your priorities that you talked about at your retreat, and I was sorry I wasn't there for the whole discussion, but as I understood, there was discussion about wanting to be more out in the community, having citizen input, communicate some information back to citizens while you're out there, and attach that in some way to the budget process. As you all know, the budget is just resources put to what your priorities and what your goals are. Part of our issue has been over the past, I guess, 5 years or so, or I guess longer than that now, we've been dealing with a capital program which consumes resources along with state reductions. I mean, that's what we've been doing. We haven't had the ability to spend a lot of time looking forward at where we wanted to go and how to put resources to things, because we were dealing on the back end with what the state was doing and how to fund our capital program. So this may be a timely point to start talking about a little bit about what you've established as your upcoming priorities and how to be out in the community a little more, talking about your vision, talking about the priorities, and then talking a little bit with citizens about some of the concerns and the constraints on where your resources come from. With that said, I thought, well, if we're going to actually land on some times and a plan and a date, then we've got to get started at least talking about it. So this is the talking part. Generally, it's a little easier to react to something when we put it out here rather than have to come up with something all at the same time. So this is just something to react to. It's not the end or the final result, but just sort of a plan for how we might get started with this, mainly because the budget process starts in November. It goes through April, and in November, between the holidays, you get into December with the holidays. In January, there's a public hearing here. I don't know why this keeps, I must be doing something wrong here, talking too loud maybe or too much. There is a public hearing in January for citizen input that's here in Christiansburg in this building. Then we have the budget hearing again here. So at this point, what I thought we would look at is how we might have several meetings in places throughout the county. And I've started with 3 and possibly having them, I don't even know if the elementary schools are open during that time, but that's a possibility. Knowing that everybody cannot probably get to every single meeting, but there would be an opportunity if you want to come, but to try and circle around those areas. If we're in Price's Fork, the representative from that area and the town of Blacksburg, the representatives from the town of Blacksburg could be there. It would be wonderful if everyone could, but generally trying to get a date to get all 7 of you all in the same place is nearly impossible a lot of times. So we would have several opportunities for people to attend various meetings. The topics, again, could be your vision, your priorities, and we did a little overview at the Citizens Academy for people about sort of county resources. Where do they come from? How are they different from the towns? What has the state done in terms of funding reductions? Where does your money go? Sort of at a very high level, just to sort of set the stage so people could understand that. Possible dates, I've listed some here just because if we're going to get started, we need to get started here. And alternatives, whatever. Do you want different sites? Would you suggest different dates? What discussion do you want to have about how we proceed with this? And I think Mr. Creed has some.
I'm biting at the bit.
I am. I'm like, is he going to let me finish before we get started?
No, I was just thinking, I like the idea of elementary schools. And I think, especially if you're talking to parents of children who this is their first child in school, it's a real good thing to have an open mic, open questions for any subject that they might want to talk about, to go along with whatever we want to talk about. So I will offer myself up as the scapegoat, and I will say that I will be glad to meet on any night that you can get it lined up with the school to have it done, and go from there.
Okay.
And I'll follow that. I'll second it.
How do you propose to get the word out to the communities, the different areas of the community, so that they would know that this meeting would be, in their area, something like this?
Send things home with the kids.
Yeah, but we want to reach out more than to
The newspaper articles, website, maybe an insert in the PSA bills, or some method of mass distribution as best we can.
I'm going to ask Ruth.
Oh, okay. Okay, you got it.
I think all of those methods sound great, and anything else you can think of,
I'll bring it up.
we can add to the mix.
Because I think we want to not just reach out to the schools, we want to reach out to our seniors, who has problems with taxes, and other, people within, just a good mix of community people, because I think that if we don't watch it, people might think that we're directly responsible for the schools and the fund, and the bus routes and everything like this. So we want to sort of keep it in perspective.
Well,
That's what we want to do.
that leads me to thinking that we probably need, if you want to do that, to have probably 2 meetings at each place. One at the high school, maybe one at the grade school, because they're going to be interested in far different things.
Right.
Like I say, especially if you've got people who've got the first time 1 through 3 or 4 years that they've had kids in school, they've got questions that, and unless you're going to stay there all night, I think you need to kind of take one school on at a time myself. But I'd certainly be willing to try it either way. But
I just don't believe this board can answer operational questions for the school.
We
You
don't.
can't speak for the
can't.
school.
No, we won't. That
Yeah.
shouldn't be our
Yeah.
function. That's
Yeah,
not
that
why
should
we're
be.
doing it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, what we can do is give them information that we are not responsible for some of the things they think we are,
Mhm.
and tell them who to contact in order to get something done, or to ask their questions to, if it has to do with the school board.
Well, from our perspective, just to clarify, the schools were out there just because they're a community facility, not necessarily to focus on
Yeah.
schools
Right.
from ours, because
Just a meeting
And I was
place.
going to say, could we not invite the, whoever happens to be the representative in the area for the schools to that in order to answer maybe a little broader questions? And I don't know, would that may be stepping too far and getting away from what you're wanting to do? I don't know.
well, it's actually coming from what you all discussed you wanted to do in community meetings, and what I understood was you wanted to be able to communicate to citizens what the board, your vision, some of your priorities, and some of the things you know that citizens may not be aware of when it comes to dealing with resources and services in the county. And so, you almost have to think, you can't make it so big that there's going to be so much that people are just going to be overwhelmed. I think you have to do some focus, and
That's right.
kind of what I thought we were focusing on, or we try and focus on, is helping people understand some of the limitations that you all face in trying to provide services that they have asked you to provide.
Yeah, and I understand that, but down my way, if you have it at the elementary school,
That's
you're
what
going to
we're
get elementary parents.
Well, maybe we need to have it in maybe Meadowbrook or a different place.
Well, you may get, I mean, they may have some of the same information. I need to hear some of the same information. We want to get out to, to citizens about this particular board, and to be able to receive whatever comments that they may, or service that they want. I don't think you necessarily, you might get high school parents, you might get elementary parents, you may get seniors. I mean, you get a gamut of a real wholesome group of people. And I understand what Gary's saying, but we can take these meetings and make them too broad and come out with no benefit whatsoever. We got all this hodgepodge information. What do you do with it? And after about 2.5 hours, you wear people out. They're going to get up and leave, and they may say it's a waste. And we need to focus on, have a focal point to go in there and do A, B, C, and D. I mean, if you have to record information, you record some information and you bring it back in another meeting, and you sort of, with these community meetings, you come together and you sort of see what matches up. You bring them together. If it's something that we need to focus on, we can draw from those meetings to focus on. Got a couple down.
Well, it looks like from this, we're concentrating on districts E, D, and C, and what are we going to do about District A, District F, and District G around the Blacksburg area, and District B around the Christiansburg area? Because my original thinking was that each district should have some kind of meeting, and then I could see where you could say maybe in the Blacksburg area, maybe you could have a combined meeting. But when you're trying to straighten out what the county is responsible for, one of the things that people that campaign within, I don't know about Christiansburg, but you can help me with that, Chris, but in Blacksburg, there's real confusion about what the town is responsible for and what the county is responsible for, and I spend a lot of my time talking about that. So I see this as like, the first means sort of like baby steps to get it, but we're leaving out a whole population of our county when we're not considering those other districts.
Well, I think the thought was, if the price Prices Fork area would include A, F, G, and around in Blacksburg. If
Well,
the school is the
See,
appropriate place,
A's
maybe it
on-
needs to be in
yeah.
the center somewhere
A's
else.
on the other side of town, and so sort of is G. Now, F touches E, but
A is nowhere near it.
yeah, it's,
Now, one of the concerns as Carol and I worked on this is, and to be real candid, when you start looking at the calendar between now and the end of December, and you take out board meetings, you take out PSA meetings, you take out the joint meeting we've got coming up with the school board, you take out the holidays, there's not a lot of days left. And so one of the discussions we had was, we knew it was going to be difficult to even get 3 or 4 meetings, much less 7. And so that was the thought about trying to combine a couple of, and we could, and again, we suggested the schools just because we figured that would be a pretty convenient place to meet. But we'll be glad to meet 10 times if you want us to. But
Yeah, and you've got Fallen Branch that is in my district that is in Christiansburg.
And we've got Auburn,
would have
Christiansburg Middle that's will attract from both sides and be in Christiansburg. So.
Well, I think we ought to do this. This is my thoughts. It's got possible Prices Fork Elementary School. Why don't you focus on the middle school, high school over there, and could include the Prices Fork A, and I mean, what districts that it touch, because that's like a focal point for that side of the county, the school strand, and the people on the other side of town can come, and the people from Prices Fork can come, and focus in and change prices, possibly Prices Fork Elementary, maybe to the high school, middle school, and that would be draw people from the districts on that side of the county.
well, Carol,
As I said at the beginning, there's no magic to any of this. Where do you want us to go?
right, we
I
want
just don't want to go to 7 different meetings, you know, with the same thing. If we can combine some areas and have 3, you know, and like in Gary's
Kind of more
case,
convenient.
yeah, if we could find somewhere. You got the Fallen Branch,
And I got Fallen Branch, which is plumb up here in Christiansburg.
yeah, and then I don't know where we could find a place somewhere down there to sort of match.
What about the library, maybe, and coming back at least in Charlottesville, maybe coming back this way, or at Meadowbrook Center? And the other thing is, we do meet here in Christiansburg. We have regular meetings here. As somebody who represents a big chunk of Christiansburg, I'm okay with us not having a separate meeting down the street. And I understand that this is the county seat, so perhaps that we can work on that. But I like the idea of maybe at the Blacksburg Middle School, moving it a little bit farther away from Prices Fork, but a little bit closer to Blacksburg to include them.
Well, and that was, again, as Carol said, this we wanted to throw this out and get it going because I knew there would be some discussion about where to meet, and we're open anywhere, and how many meetings we needed to have. Again, the suggestion for 3 was, and Carol went through the calendar and pulled out a couple of dates. If we've got to find 4 more dates on the top of those 3, plus we also said we were going to try to get together in a work session again before the end of the year. Y'all going to be meeting quite a bit.
Well, these meetings may be something that we could have as little as 1 or 2 people
Yeah,
That's true.
show up for.
especially at first when
You
you're
know,
starting.
that's kind of what I was anticipating and that's where the middle school may not be bad over in Christiansburg because you and I can have people there, and Fallen Branch, you might have to be there with Gary, you know.
But Fallen Branch could come to your meeting.
Well, Fallen
Really?
Branch is over here.
Fallen Branch is
but
over by
they still-
They're
Charlottesville.
not gonna go all the way around.
They don't go down up the hill.
It'd be easier for them to go back to Charlottesville than it would be around.
Yeah,
No, well, you don't have to have it at
Let's just
Roanoke.
get a
Seems
bus
like
and
me.
make
You
it
could have it at Christiansburg.
Magical mystery tour.
Christiansburg Middle.
Yeah,
We just get
be
one
at
of the
Christiansburg
buses.
Middle, it would be
Yeah.
okay.
Or you could have it here.
It's just,
I
it's a
think
thought.
it's important for us to communicate. That's what we talked
Yeah.
about at our retreat. And I am concerned, and part of my concern came when we had public address at our budget hearings, that we let people, say what they want to, and we don't answer them back. We don't stop right then and there and correct the situation. And so if we could figure out a really good way that once the public, when the public address is there, if we could have one of us or Marty or whoever, you, Craig, whatever, or Mr. Politis, when we know that the people are asking for something that is not within our purview to do, that right then and there, we say, okay, that's not how it is. And I know it's important to go out and hear more, but if we have the same kind of input here in our meetings that we had last year, and with the number of things that I know were misunderstood or people had misinformation, and I don't mean just opinions. People can have opinions, and that's fine, but I'm talking about really where we get our resources and how those resources are meted out. So I don't want it to seem that it's a challenge to the people who get up to speak, saying you're not too bright or any of those kinds of things, but to say some way to figure out how to correct.
Have it more of a conversation instead of an address.
With what's happening, but we have to be cautious.
Absolutely.
Well, I think if we do community things, we can do that a little easier than having 120 people in here.
Well, that's true.
I
And
didn't
we
think that
can do
you
it
were...
as a discussion.
Right, I
type
didn't
forum.
think it was a public hearing or a public comment you wanted to incorporate. It was a community exchange.
Right.
Right. Well, that's what I started out saying. I'm okay with the community exchange. Yes, we did want it, but part of it had to do with the fact that in public address there were so many people
Unless
who
you
had,
address some of them right there, which
right, had
normally we wouldn't do,
misinformation.
but there were so many.
Could I suggest that we Carol and Craig suggested some topics. I mean, maybe they should just be information topics. Is that this is what we think, the budget situation, this is what we've done over the past year. These are the things that we're actually in charge of. These are the districts. These are your voting districts and stuff like that. I mean, these are all coming up, especially before the big election as well. So people might have questions about where their polling place is and all kinds of stuff like that, how they register to vote. I mean, we can answer some of those questions, And so it doesn't have to necessarily be, especially if there's only 2 or 3 of us there, like it doesn't have to be a discussion about board priorities or anything. It could just be a way for citizens to come and ask us questions, and we can actually answer them.
Right.
And so they don't have to stand up there at a podium.
Right.
Maybe we could all sit at a table or a couple different tables or something like that, and actually have that conversation.
I just think that you're going to, well, you're true, but you're going to get different people, those that come to the podium to speak versus those who come to a community meeting.
And I think we get better turnout.
I don't know. I guess what I was just saying, yes, the community meetings are important, and we need to be sure that we're including everybody, but I also think that somehow or other we ought to be able to respond as the people speak to
I think that's
errors.
I think that's what we're
to
saying.
certain things, and I think Mr. Meadows can, or somebody like that, or Marty can do
Marty
that.
or Craig.
If we are going to, just to add one more thing, I mean, if we are just going to maybe perhaps have 2 or 3 people at each meeting, I mean, I would like to see kind of partially based on what Mary was saying, one more meeting, maybe somewhere in the northeast part of the county. And I was thinking that maybe if you want to do elementary schools, like someplace like Gilbert-Lincoln or maybe even Harding Avenue would be better, because that would touch on F. It's close enough to F, I think, that people would come. It's in my
G
district
and
A as well.
Right.
So
You're
you
exactly
could
right.
hit 3 districts that way.
So you would rather have it at a school there instead of maybe the Blacksburg Library?
Could do it at home.
You could do it at the library
That's
too.
pretty-
That would probably be all right. So,
Yeah, that's pretty centrally located too.
So, and in that sense, I would keep the Price's Fork one as well, because there's a different population that lives out down in
I agree.
Mills District. So,
Okay, let me
And then we're talking about moving yours to the Christiansburg Middle School and
Well, I think what we're going to do, if it's all right with the board, what you see before you is kind of a brainstorming thing that Carol put together and we talked about. We didn't physically, or maybe you did and I didn't know it, but we didn't physically look at a district map and try to figure out what was, I mean, we were saying, where are some fairly convenient venues that we know we could get people together? We can go back and fine tune that a little bit, and maybe instead of Price's Fork, we move it over, more into Blacksburg. Maybe instead of Auburn, we look at Fallen Branch. I mean, there's a couple of things we can do to try to pull that in.
If we're going to have one on the 17th, we're sort of running out of time here to do a lot of advertising, so we got to get rolling. So we need one more day, one more meeting, as I understood, in the Blacksburg. Maybe the Blacksburg Library would be central.
Or Harding Avenue.
Or Harding Avenue.
Yeah, and we have a 5th Monday in October, 29th, so that might, I don't know if that would work for people, that might work, October 29th.
And when I got my schedule, I marked out all of the Mondays, so I'm good.
Okay, let's talk about the days we've got down. The 17th, the 10th, the 15th, and the 30th. Do you want to assign areas? Is that going to work so we make sure that we have days that the people from those areas can be?
Excuse me, Carol, you said the 30th, you mean the 29th?
I'm sorry, 29th.
That's a Monday?
Yes,
Monday.
ma'am.
I was guessing.
It's a fifth Monday.
It's usually a 30th, isn't it?
I would just request, I wouldn't be able to attend the October 15th one, so I would just prefer that not be the Blacksburg Library or Harding one. But other than that, that's fine. And I'm certainly going to try, I'm going to attend as many as I possibly could.
I wanted to say something about Wednesday night, because a lot of people in rural areas have church meetings on Wednesday nights, and they really can't come out to...
Or choir practice within the towns.
Yeah, we have a lot
Wednesday
of church
night
stuff
meeting.
on Wednesday.
Potential Wednesday.
Right, but you have choir practice, or you have a prayer meeting, or you have a church meeting.
I'm looking.
You want to do the first one, guys?
I don't care. I told you.
This is why we have this discussion.
That's
I'm gonna do it, whatever. I'll take any, first, second, whatever we want to do it. I'd just like to figure out some way
September's really booked for me,
to get,
and I can do it first of October.
I'd like to figure out some way to get Fallen Branch
Yeah.
included into this, and I don't know, there's no place between Fallen Branch
The bottom of the mountain.
the closest you could get would be the old Shawsville Middle School.
Well, but couldn't we use the Meadowbrook Center and talk with those folks about, that seems like that's what that's...
There's a meeting room there too.
And that gets you at least, 5 miles back up that way, or 4 or 5 miles.
Well, that's the same place that the middle school does.
Yeah.
So,
It's all right there in the little village, but
that way we cover it.
of course, you have to pay to use that. It ain't much, about $40, I think.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned about you if you wanted to be at 2 of them, because you have the whole Christiansburg area.
I'm going to try to come to several of them and just try to be, unless I've got something else.
Because if you would come to, say, one at the Christiansburg Middle School and go to one down in the Shawsville area, you can draw the Fallen Branch people down there, and you can draw the other
Well,
ones.
we could get Fallen Branch
the other
over
side.
into yours, and I could come to that.
But I guess, do you really think that the people from Falling Branch won't drive down to the Shawsville? Or won't drive
If
over?
they don't make Shawsville, they
That's
can
getting
make
about
Auburn.
close.
Or-
That's about 6 miles closer.
Right, and if they don't make that, then they can come to the Christiansburg Middle. They're within a few miles.
Give them a couple.
Yeah.
Okay, what about have Monday the 17th and the Meadowbrook Center? Will that work?
If you can get it all lined up, it works for me.
Well, that's my concern, but we've got to start somewhere here. Okay, Then what about Monday, October the 29th for the Blacksburg Library or school area?
That's
Okay.
pretty good.
Okay, we got 2 now.
I'm good for the 15th.
15th of October in the Auburn.
Well,
Now,
if we can do it at Christiansburg Middle School, it'll be fine too.
is that where you want to have it, Christiansburg Middle? Okay.
Just because it's
Oh, yeah.
central for both Christiansburg and Auburn.
Okay.
September.
What's September the?
And now we gotta worry about Bill.
The 17th or something.
September
17th.
17th is a Monday.
It's a
That's a
Monday.
third Monday.
Right.
That's the Monday
That's
we don't
not
have a
BOS
meeting.
I'm just trying to think of, course, that don't have nothing to do with this, but we've changed the highway safety has been changed for the 3rd time. But it just hit me that we could get Mr. Kitts maybe into that meeting.
Oh,
Has he been notified yet?
Pretty sure he has.
Okay, so we need one more at the Blacksburg Middle High School facility. Is that correct?
I thought we were doing the
No.
29th.
that's the 29th. That's all.
No, but we're
That's
talking about
just
the fourth one for
Blacksburg.
Price's Fork area,
Yeah.
the other side of the county,
Yeah, we're going to do this.
and Corey and all that.
So you're going to separate them out?
Yeah, so you can't, right.
Yeah.
Price's Fork would be,
The next one.
yeah.
But that Wednesday, we were talking about sometimes people have church meetings. Bill, what?
Well, I said on the 10th, I don't think a Wednesday's good.
No,
but-
Wednesdays, I just think we need from what I know around the area and around the county, you don't mind having me.
Well, the
down on
Blacksburg
Wednesday.
Library would hold,
about-
would be A and G and
Yeah, Matt's
and F.
churches are full.
Yeah.
I would suggest for, instead of Wednesday, October 10th, that you look at Tuesday, October 16th. And the reason you can't do Tuesday, October 9th is we have a board meeting that night because Monday, the 8th, is Columbus Day. So I would suggest instead of Wednesday, the 10th, that you do Tuesday, the 16th of October.
Could I suggest the following week? The only reason is that is a school board meeting.
Oh.
So you might draw people.
It
might
does.
I
be-
knew it was
Yes.
something.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
sitting here trying to think, okay.
Tuesdays.
what
The
if-
23rd is not.
I'll just wait.
That's
The 23rd?
of October. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just wait till you get them together and then send us something out. I've been writing on this.
All right, I think we've landed on October the 23rd for the Price's Fork area, and now I'm back to, where do you want to have that one? At the middle high school or at the
That could be at the price.
Price's Fork Elementary? Are we back to the elementary?
Back to elementary.
And, yeah.
Yeah, they said they
and-
wanted to have it.
And F, and there might be some F and D people there. Could be.
Okay, we
You
good
mean-
with that? All right, so I have Monday the 17th, we'll try for the Meadowbrook Center.
That's September.
September.
Okay.
October the 23rd, Price's Fork Elementary. Monday, October the 15th at the Christiansburg Middle School. And then Monday, October the 29th in the Blacksburg area library or school.
Mhm.
All right,
Preferably the Blacksburg Library or maybe Harding Avenue Elementary.
okay.
I would like to see this personally to be a county thing, not a school board.
Well, absolutely.
Right, that's what it is.
Yeah, all right,
It's
because
not
we
a school
talked
board.
earlier about,
Great, up to
Yeah,
topics.
Yeah. I like that thing that you have here about the county resources and services, because I think that's where we have the most misunderstandings when citizens come, you know, like, even though you guys do such a really great job with the budget stuff and going over it, there's still a lot of information about where the money comes from and what it's spent on, I mean, and what it can be spent on. So I like your idea of the overview of the county resources and then the services that they provide. I think there needs to be, that sort of, to me, is the educational focus that we need to.
We have a presentation together for that.
Yeah.
How about we circulate it and get
Yeah.
comments if there are other areas you want to have in there? Just from having delivered it, I think that you have to keep it at sort of a high enough
Right.
level for people to have questions
Right.
about
Right.
as a general rule. And then I think you'll see from these meetings if you want to change the format or how you may want to add to it. But I think if you get it so big and you get it so long, you're going to
Yeah.
miss the question and answer part that you really want to make some clarifications and supports.
When you get all together, please send an email out.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell them, here's where you need to be, and here's the day.
The Christiansburg Middle, then we're going to also send out things to Fallen Branch.
We're just in, I don't really think we're gearing up towards the schools and necessarily using the schools to send out notes, because then we're going to get a bunch of people who are going to come in and say,
Right.
I want more bombardment balls for our schools, and we need more jump ropes, and that's not what we're going to be about.
No, all I'm asking is, are we involving Fallen Branch with that middle school?
I think
I'm looking for a place for them to go.
Well, no, I'm just
Do we-
saying, announce it to everybody in
do we
the
announce
county.
it to
If
go
somebody
down the
wants to
mountain, or-
come from Blacksburg to come to the Shawsville meeting, they can. I think we're going to announce it to everybody. But
So
we're
we should send it out then and have all the 4 meetings listed?
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yes.
So people can go where they
And,
want.
yeah, because one date might suit than another.
Yeah.
And we'll probably need to do something like a display ad or something in the paper that'll list all 4. But again, do you want to focus your topics? How do you want to frame what your meeting's about?
All right, this is just filling out this for a suggestion. We have, and I know this board is committed to selling surplus properties and the like, but perhaps this might be a time for each community, because eventually we've got some surplus property in Shawsville, we've got some surplus property in Price's Fort, we've got surplus property in Blacksburg. Maybe this is a good time for us to listen to the community about, what they're in, and give them an opportunity to talk with us while we're in there. Now, at the same time, that's opening up Pandora's box, I understand. But that's something that just a good time to listen to
It's
folks.
going to bring you for them to be wanting to ask questions about what are you doing with them? And you need to be able to tell them that.
And what our
That's-
and what our positions are. I know we've got probably different positions here as a board, and we'll all be speaking individually. But it might be a good idea to get some input at that point in time. But again, I'm just putting that idea out there. It may not be, that could consume the entire meeting, probably like that.
Well,
Sorry. I liked what Mary said about it being it's a brief, informational presentation, and then honestly in an open forum so that citizens could, and we could list as one of the possible topics surplus properties or budget next year or something like that. But again, kind of what Annette was saying is that this will be one of the few opportunities in which we can actually answer questions. So if they have misinformation, then we can actually talk to them about that. Or if they generally don't know where they go to do X, Y, or Z, we can give them an answer about that. So,
Carol, would you be giving a presentation similar that you did to the Citizens Academy?
yes.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking that would sort of be the base and what you wanted to add to or take away from, because it generally gives a high level of the facts. It talks about where your money comes from. Talks about one of the things that I think needs some clarity is, we're different than towns, and
Right.
here's why. They get huge amounts of money in the mills tax, and we don't. And
Right.
we have to look at other services and those kinds of areas.
Yeah,
I think, having listened to it myself a lot, that's one area that needs some clarification, along with, I'll never miss an opportunity to leave out what the state's done to us
Right.
over the years.
Exactly.
And so
That's a good point right there.
that's, there's, some of the same information we presented to
Exactly.
you all about comparisons of how much the state has reduced funding over the years. And
Yeah,
so-
that really needs to be something that's really brought forward, because then I think there's a better understanding of, what we have to do at the local level just to try to keep our heads above water. And so I think that's really important. I think that's something that there's a misconception about. And then again, what you said, Carol, about the towns, and especially like you got new people that move in. I just talked to a lady today in my neighborhood, and she had no idea, like there was a difference between town and county government. So, I think this is a perfect opportunity. Even if only 3 people come, at least 3 people know. And maybe if it becomes an annual thing, then more people come,
Okay, I think I still need some clarification here. I get the overview on resources and services, but do you want to talk about the board vision and priorities? Is that something you all want to do or not?
I think we can do that as a slide and just say, here's the board's vision, here are the priorities they've identified, just to make the citizens aware of what the board's focus is, not to have individual discussions on each priority, but
Okay.
I'd like to see us have some bullets on different subjects that, should we get on that subject and need to look at it and see exactly what is really real, rather than trying to guess at it. We can't cover everything, but some of the things that we, of course, think, some of maybe the 10 or 12 different things that might be expected to draw questions. Maybe to have any information that we might have that we may not.
talking points for some of the hot topics.
Well, I'm curious, this is more of a question maybe for Ruth. Does the webpage have a FAQ? An FAQ? It does? Is that related specifically to county services? Do we have an FAQ for that? Because if we create something like this would be wonderful to put on the website. And then we could just send people, say, oh, you want to know something about the county? We've compiled all this information. Go to this webpage.
And that could be brought up in the meetings.
Yeah.
And we need all those type facts that we can get to be able to pass them on.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion.
Yeah, but if we're compiling it, then we need to be able to keep it so that we can continue to publicize it.
And I was going to say, as part of my board member report, that I did go to Richmond to the VACO meetings. Jim went to, but we had quite a presentation to the Education Committee from Jim Regenbaugh about the state funding and what we can look forward to. And I know you know that, but I do have some of those papers and I need to just pass them on to you. But I know Craig was in the Finance Committee and he got a lot of things too from Jim Regenbaugh. So.
Well, again, I think we're trying to get some topics here so we can stay focused.
Right.
And so you all know better than I do about what you get asked by everybody out there, and I imagine there's a lot of different topics that can possibly come up.
And I think that you don't try to complicate things where people don't understand them and things like this. Some things, and like before I became a board member, if you'd have talked to me before I learned a few things, this crap is Greek to me. And but if we keep it kind of even keel and not get too complicated down to where people can understand what you're trying to get across to them and what you're trying to receive from them.
One other thing, you're asking for subjects. Each of us will have somewhat of different priorities from our communities. Okay. Right. One of my priorities in my community is roads. Mm-hmm. They don't have that in Blacksburg. Mm-hmm. So we kind of got to, look at it. The other thing is, well, why don't you just raise the doggone sales tax? Or why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Tax-wise. And, these are the more things that I get. Of course, schools are important. Budgets are important. But they want to know, why can't we do these things? And I don't know what...
Marty's got a point, too.
I don't know if it would be helpful, but I would maybe suggest you could develop a legal description, or in layman's terms of, what's the difference between county town, school board, state.
That's good.
Some
That's
of the
good.
That's
limiting
good.
factors, like you just said, Dillon's rule, where
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
we can only do what the state says we can, so we're limited that way. Yeah, we
That's good.
interact with the school board, but they're in charge of the schools. We don't have anything to do
Right.
with that. We do provide funding, but even that's limited, and what we can say they can use their funding for. We talk about that in general terms, but try to make it simple as possible.
That's good.
Well, that's part of
Talk about
what I was
the,
talking about bullets, you know.
Yeah.
We need to have
Yeah.
things that's going to be of it. And what, my question though, before Jim, to what extent or can we be expecting to have back from Craig and you and whoever, as far as things that maybe like something that we can record what's going on? Is that possible? In case that, we get into things that we don't know about, and instead of saying, well, if we got it on, if we can record it, then we can just go on, and then we can go back when we got a little time and
We'll
try
have,
to.
we'll have some way to record the meeting so we can transcribe some notes back out of it, either through video or audio or something. But
And you need something to word, just in case you have a he said, she said. we
Right.
said,
Yeah.
it's always good. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I didn't
Thank you very much.
mean to turn my
No.
administrator's
Great
report into a...
discussion.
I just,
But
It's good.
Carol and I have been talking about it, and we knew that this is something that if we didn't get started on it now,
we gotta go.
and with that, I wanted to just say also it's great to have Supervisor Biggs back at the dais with us tonight, and I wanted to be the first one to wish everybody a happy Labor Day. So that's it.
All right,
Labor
board
Day.
members report. Supervisor Gabriel.
Just very briefly, I attended the school board meeting last week, and they did decide, as you probably heard, they decided to go ahead with the move into Building C, to use their carryover funds to do that. So that will be proceeding relatively soon. Everything, as far as capital projects, is on time, and the schools are slated to open. Everything is apparently looking good for that. They're going to have a capital planning work session before our joint meeting. Our joint meeting will be later in September. They're going to meet before then to talk about what they foresee there needs to be, so they can talk with us about that. They also had a little bit more discussion about having the meetings taped, and that discussion was spirited. And they took no action on that, and they may, in sometime in the future, do something with that.
May I ask, what is the thought process against recording it and broadcasting it?
Certain members don't want it broadcast. There are certain members who feel that the Board of Supervisors is telling them what to do by doing that. And then there are other board members who are very much in favor of having the meetings videotaped. So I think there's an evenly divided. I get the sense that there's an evenly divided board.
Was it, do you know, and I've communicated it to the superintendent, but was it clear that the county was willing to pick up the expense of that?
Crystal clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll just comment. I think when you first commit to do something like that, it is a little scary at first. Because, I remember being on this board where, not any of you guys, but maybe a couple remember this, that people were afraid to come out the back room at the old courthouse and come into the boardroom even because there was a feeling of, oh, we're going to be in the open. Well, that's what all this is about. It's called being in the open. We're elected by citizens to be in the open and to make decisions. So it could be that, if you haven't done it, maybe it's sort of a scary thing to do. But, it came from I'm the one that brought it up because citizens came here and asked. And that was the only reason I brought it up at our meeting, because citizens were asking us, could we, help the school board? So.
And that may be something that you need to pass on to the school board, maybe live and in person if you possibly could.
Well, there's even school board members who have brought it up that they've had people talk to them, and so would this be worthwhile? But there just seems to be certain members who are against it. So I don't really know what will happen with it. I would guess that we're probably going to talk about it in our joint meetings at some point. So when we have that on 27th. Very briefly, two other things. Thank you to Craig and to everyone for the backcountry opening. That was a really great event. As he mentioned, a huge turnout and a really impressive facility in there. It was it wasn't empty because all the stuff was there, but it wasn't filled with the stuff that they're actually going to sell. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when there are things in there. And then finally, I actually attended the Blacksburg Art Summit this past weekend, which was, I think, sponsored by the Blacksburg Partnership. And they had a phenomenal turnout. About 75, 80 people showed up, and they had little working groups and talking about kind of trying to create Blacksburg as an arts community. One thing that I mentioned to them, that I was the only person who was representing any sort of constituency outside of the town of Blacksburg, and that's only because my district is within Blacksburg that I was kind of there, and I hope that there will be more regional cooperation, because this is not something that the town can really do on its own. And so hopefully, as this arts initiative kind of moves forward, and it's been going for a while, but as it continues to move forward, I should say, I want to make sure that they're hooked up with our new tourism director and with people in town of Christiansburg, people in the county as well, because I think there are certain needs that, if this vision in Blacksburg is to be met, they're going to need help from the other localities, both in terms of resources, but also in terms of, for example, like cheap studio space for artists and stuff like that. Like, they want to have it in downtown Blacksburg. It's too expensive, but there are other places around which could easily furnish cheap studio space. So I'll keep you updated as I hear more about that. And that's all I have.
Okay. Supervisor Tuck.
I won't be brief. This is going to take a couple of minutes, but as many of as everyone knows, I'm a criminal defense attorney, and when I first started practicing law, it was not unusual for the state to pick up inmates within 30, 60 days of receiving their sentence. They would go on to a state facility. That state facility, a lot of them had road crews, but also rehabilitative services, whether it was electronics, whether it was electricians, whether it was barbers, that you could get those type of certifications. What is happening now is, and this is another issue that the state is doing to us, they are not coming and picking up the inmates. And there are times that inmates are sitting in our facilities for over 2 years. Primarily the Montgomery County Jail, which is located here in Christiansburg, houses, and I got the numbers today, about 90, 92 on any given day. That is, it's cheaper for us to keep our inmates there. Those inmates are supposed to be there while awaiting trial. If they're a good inmate, if there's somebody, then we're utilizing them. And one, we're utilizing them in a couple of different ways. And the jail staff has been thinking outside the box. They've got a GED program that's electronic, that they can get online. There is a computer system there. And then they can also follow up with that GED program outside. When they get out and are released, they can go to the libraries and they can continue along with that GED program. But there is a situation where, especially when they're down, and I refer to it as Dixie or the Cave, which is the Western Regional Jail, that those inmates will be there for 2 years. Those inmates, and in many ways, the television is utilized as a way of keeping everybody calm, which is fine, and means less guards have issues and things along those lines. You don't have people acting out because and if they do act out, they take the TV away from them. But there is also a problem, and it's a problem that we'll need money to try to address. If we continue and somebody sits in a jail cell for 2 years and the only thing that they have been trained to do is how to turn on and off a TV, there's no rehabilitation there. You're then going to release that individual out. He has been trained for 2 years not to do anything. And so, now I know at the regional jail that they're trying to do some things, but I think we need to look at some of the things that are a little bit outside the box, but continue with programs here at our local jail to work with us, whether that be working on gardens and growing their own food, or whether that food would be then donated to food pantries. That requires overtime for deputies, and that means that would cost money. Inside the wire, I know that when the regional jail was purchased, there was an agreement that you wouldn't have a lot of inmates outside working. Now, I understand also that the regional jail has purchased some property. but there is a lot of land inside that wire. Those inmates who are in that facility, well, there is no windows, okay, for those inmates. Though they may sit in that building for 2 years without seeing the light of day, they will want to get out and work. I believe that you can, and I'd like to see us try to work with creating a pilot program, see if it works. See about getting them to grow their own food and either donate that to a food pantry or utilize it to eat. I'd also like to see us try to do something really outside the box. And that may be if an inmate is willing, start looking at some of the welding programs. One of the best paying jobs out there right now. I know of a couple of different people starting out $19 an hour welding. There is a huge demand for people who are welding. Now, again, these programs, that will cost some money, but in the long run, I believe it could save money. In addition, they're allowed to give only a day and a half of good time per month. Well, if we can give that good time and you're obeying yourself, you're going through a GED program, you're doing a work program, okay, we'll make you trustee status and we'll give you that extra day and a half. Now, I don't know how much that type of would cost. And so I guess I'm asking the board to let's see if we can start exploring that, because the biggest increase that we had outside the school systems was $500,000 that went up in our jail costs. So,
Chris, let me respond. I sit on the jail authority, and you'd be surprised at what's going on in that jail. There's a GED program, and I think it's Craig, help me out. I'm sitting there trying to think as I was listening to Chris, but there's a number of programs, educational programs, the
Occupational training type
occupational training going on in the Western Regional Jail. Yeah.
but and I guess when I hear from my clients who are saying they've been there for two years, one of them's been there 2 years and almost 8 months, and he's never seen the light of day.
I guess if he or she didn't want to participate.
No. But that program,
okay.
and you're right. But the other thing is those programs fill up. There's not enough space.
Okay, that may be true.
At least from what I'm understanding. But also, think about being when they get out, they're going to be somebody's neighbor, and these are people who are going to be coming back into our community. It's been 2 years since you've seen actual sunlight. That'd be pretty tough. And so I guess I'm looking at some things, maybe, and I know this is there's a lot of different things that we could do, but I would like to see us try to see if we could look at spending some money, paying some deputies some extra overtime on some of the things, moving furniture from the school board. You know, that they need some help with that. Well, we got a bunch of inmates, we got trucks with the sheriff's department. What if during the night we help them move? We pay the deputies extra time, but then we give these inmates the opportunity to be able to get a couple of days off of their sentence and utilize them to move. We try to think outside the box and also, but trying to get them to not just be sitting there changing that channel and getting them doing some things. And working with the regional jail authority and working with Sheriff Witt.
This is a question, I guess, for you, Chris, but maybe also for you, Bill, since comes entirely out of ignorance. I mean, is there any sort of college education that's offered or anything like that? And the reason I ask is because at different public universities that I've been personally affiliated with, but also ones that I know about, is that there's a tradition of professors and graduate students going into prisons and jails to offer college level credits. Teaching specific courses. For example, when I was doing my PhD at Cal in Berkeley, I mean, there were 20, 30, 40 professors that would go into San Quentin, to teach courses there. And it was entirely volunteer-based, didn't cost anyone anything. All the jail had to provide, or the prison had to provide in that case, was the space for the classes to take place.
And Deputy Smith is here, and he has been in the jail just about as long as I've been practicing law, as far as that. But I have never heard of the college professors going into the local jails and teaching college-level courses. Now, as far as the GED program, yes. As far as AA, yes, that program. And I was talking with Captain, and I always mispronounce her name, but I want to say it's Haig. Cow, thank you. But she was talking about a new program that they work with a drug treatment, and this is in Montgomery County Jail. It's just started, but they will get you a job. when you walk out the door, you will have a job. Now, they're pretty tough and pretty stringent, but then there's been 5 inmates who have qualified for that. And so when they walk out the door, they've got a job, they're going through a rehabilitative services, they've got some placement. And again, these are folks that are coming right back into our community. But at the same time, some of these things, they do cost some money, but hopefully they will save us some money in the long run, because we won't have people who get caught in the cycle. And where they get out, they don't have a job, they're a convicted felon, they don't have a GED, and then they get in trouble. And because they don't have any alternatives.
Yes, and I know someone right now who is a convicted felon who is trying desperately to get a job, cannot, because he is a convicted felon.
Because there's very few employers that, when they do the background check, are willing to take a chance. But what Chris is saying too, sort of goes along with that. At least maybe they would have something when they came out, a skill or something. And then there needs to be a whole nother thing going on with, and I don't know who does this, but working with employers to get to hire some of these people. Find a lot of them in the construction industry and also restaurants.
Sure.
But yeah, because I know some people like Annette does right now that are really having a difficult time getting a job.
Let me make a comment on that. And I'm certainly not against everybody getting an education. I am not. And that if this was the only way they could get one, then I would be 100% for it. But my question is, what about young folks that are out here and can't get a job, or young couples that can't get a job or have a job, and they are working every day, but they can't afford to go to school? They realize, a lot of them, I've talked to them, realize that, they didn't do what they should have done 2 or 3, 4, 5 years ago. But at this point in time, they don't see no way out. Are we saying that, if this gets to be something that is something that happens all the time within our jail system, that these folks might want to turn to robbing a store or something in order to get some time to go up there and be trained?
As someone who's been on the cell blocks, I don't believe, when going through that there's many people who are going to say, I'm going to get arrested. But there are some programs, either from student loans to be able to get your education and be able to take care of that and to try to address it, or be able to go to New River. But these are, and part of it is, I'm looking at, and the reality is, they are in there, and they are, it's a two-way street. We give them an opportunity to be able to learn something. We get to reduce a little bit of their jail costs by giving them good time credit. If they're goofing off, if they're not serious, kick them out of the program. If they're and regardless, and that's only a day and a half that we can cut per month. But if we look at it and we say, all right, it's going to cost us something, but it might save us something in the long run by not having them repeat, or that they'll become somebody who's actually paying taxes and the like because they've got a skill. But if they're not serious about it, then they're not part of the program, and frankly, they're in their jail cell.
Let me tell you about something that I know a little bit about. Very little, but I know a little bit about it. Last month, I rented a house in Lafayette to a young couple who has a 1.5-year-old and a newborn baby. He works for Burger King in Salem, and I know she works for someone, but anyhow, they make enough money to get by on, but they only have one car. So when she has to work later than he does, he walks from Salem back to Lafayette every day. And lots of time he has to be there in time to pick up his child or her 2 children over in another place that's about 4 miles, and then carry one of them and drag along the other one in order to get back home. And I didn't know this was going on until somebody come and told me. That's what I'm talking about is out there. There are people who are working, they're doing everything they can do, and they just cannot.
Well, let me ask you this. If we're generating food that, from the garden that we've got planted, and we look at maybe it costs us $1,500 to pay for seed, pay for that, but and we have and then we have that food being donated to the food pantries to help out families just like that.
They don't get a penny in food stamps.
No,
they
I'm not saying
a penny in food from food pantries.
Well, I'm just saying, but if we're utilizing
that.
that.
Every penny that they owe, they pay the rent on time. They're a good couple.
So you would rather see them watching TV than getting out and working? You would rather have the inmates sitting there and not doing anything?
Oh, I'm not against doing inmate. I'm just saying who is more deserving of getting a helping hand. That's all I'm saying. Which one of these two is the most deserving?
Well, it's easy to say, absolutely, that family that's out there working really hard is more deserving, and being able to help them out and looking at it, and it's wonderful. And I'm sure that people in the community, I'm sure that people see them walking down the road and they pick them up and put them in the back of their pickup truck.
I think maybe that might happen once they get used, they moved into this house, and once people get used to seeing them, maybe they'll start picking them up. But maybe he'll get a ride when he needs one. But that's not going to help him. Nobody's probably not going to pick him up and take him over to his babysitter and then back over to his house. I don't look for that to happen too much. But still, that's neither here nor there. All I'm saying is, I know this is happening. It's happening every, 2 or 3 times a week. It don't happen every day because lots of times they're in the same schedule.
When these jails were designed, they were designed to hold people for 30 days, or 60 days. They weren't designed to do rehabilitative services because it's not supposed to be all punishment. Under the Virginia Code, there's supposed to be a rehabilitation portion of it. But the problem is when the state puts it back on us and says, you're going to keep them for 2 years, well, then you've got limitations. And all I'm saying is, let's explore it. I'm not saying, hey, let's throw $1 million at it. I'm saying, let's look at it. I'm saying, let's maybe spend $5,000, $10,000 on having some gardens that we can have them working in. That's what I'm talking about, at least looking at it. And I know I've taken up, I told you, I was not going to be brief.
I'm not done with the subject. I'm going to chip in a little bit because I'm involved in some of these types of programs for the county or the state even. I'm on the Virginia Cares Board, and I bring these things up. Now, I'm not sure, from my recollection, that the jails are really supposed to be the place for that. I thought that was DOC, because the jails, you cannot be in there but so long, though they keep us there, and this is what you're saying.
You're not supposed to be, that's correct.
So maybe what we need to do is get that switched back the way it's supposed to be. There was one prison in Bland. Jane and I were taking a trip one day, and we're going on, I think it's 42.
Yeah, it's
and I saw this most beautiful farm
That's right.
I have ever, this gorgeous fence. I said, Jan, wouldn't you like to have the buffalo in there? And she says, yeah, and then we found out it was the Bland Farm. Well, the Bland Farm used to supply food for all the jails in the state. I'm a little bit familiar with prisons because of the situation, but another thing that's happened in this DOC and private industry business is now, in a lot of cases, they're required to buy food from vendors rather than grow it themselves. Am I correct?
I don't know the details in regards to that.
There's something in that area. I saw a news article the other day that one of the states wanted to use their prisoners to make military uniforms. Well, you're going to put all the people in the garment industry out of work. Well, you're going to save money for the government, Another problem we have with, and I believe in reentry, and I believe in helping them, and I'm on a board, and you got to come to a board meeting one time, you might. We're working at it, okay? But another problem we have is with the limited employment, the priorities are people like Gary's talking about in the military. You know, who's more important, getting the veterans jobs when they get back? And that kind of puts a hindrance in a lot of that. I think what we need to do is develop more industry. I think they still make license plates in Powhatan, do they not?
Decals now. Used to make
Decals
license
now?
plates.
Okay.
They used to-
That's right,
well,
yeah.
several years
Yeah.
ago, you had the black plates with the white letters.
Right.
April 15th, everybody had to change. And then I guess somebody got lazy down in Richmond and said, hey, let's just make little decals and stick on them now.
So the nice plates to come out are made by private industry now? Or?
I don't know where they come from, but they used to make them when the state penitentiary was down in Richmond. That's where they used to press them out and things like that years ago.
License, yeah.
But I believe if somebody comes out of there with a skill, they're going to be a lot better off. And then it's a matter of the public acceptance, you know. And I agree with you 100% there. But
And I think
is it the
jail
jail's
there
place
is-
with the limited funds?
It's supposed to have a limit on it, 2 years.
Well, they're supposed to, but I'm just telling you, in actuality, and there are people that are staying longer. You know, I've even thought about whether we could use inmates to be able to take care of a no-kill shelter and work with some of our charities down at especially down at the regional jail, but where we've got so much land. I've thought about utilizing inmates to be able to help and maintain our current shelter, which is in bad shape. But you know, we have a lot of inmates who do have some skills, masonry skills and things like that, that could at least help on those things. But they've got to have a guard. They've got to have supervision. And so they'll need somebody there. You know, you just can't let them go and let them do that. And that does cost money to be able to hire a guard.
But how much would a contractor cost?
A lot more.
Who
A contractor.
is the regional jail commission, the group that you go to it?
No, Craig does.
Craig
And
does.
Bill.
And Bill's
And
the-
Bill. Right. Do you all not have responsibility for these kinds of things?
Well, and it was brought up earlier, the local jail is certainly supposed to be as I call it, a minimum stay facility. It's in and out. The the Western Virginia Regional Jail was designed to be kind of an intermediate facility, again, to hold inmates for trial or whatnot. But once an inmate is sentenced, as Supervisor Tuck said, they're supposed to be turned over to the Department of Corrections, and the state assumes that responsibility. That's another area where the state has just said, we'll come get them eventually, but eventually sometimes winds up being 2 years.
I'm just talking about the programs, like
Right.
Chris is talking about, to have someone work on a program for the kinds of things that you're suggesting.
You're trying to work on programs at the River Valley.
Does that come through the regional jail? Does that come through the Department of Corrections?
It should be a Department of
DMC,
Corrections
yeah.
thing, because the regional jails and the local jail, that's talking earlier about the GEDs. There are opportunities for the inmates to work towards GED degrees and things like that. But the local jail and even the regional jails aren't designed for like college courses, because if the system's working like it's supposed to, they're not supposed to be there long enough to be able to have a semester college course.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be in and out.
You know, one of the programs they had over in, not Gretna, but,
Is it Pulaski over to Unit 1? That got closed down, but
I know it did.
they were cleaning the highways and they had their own garden. And they
well, there was a halfway house, it was a former jail in, what's the town in New Gretna?
Is this with
Chatham.
Chatham.
They have a
Yeah.
work farm.
Thank you.
And
Chatham.
they take the inmates and they house them there during the day. During the evening, they bus them to jobs. And my son, of course, was there for a while, and he learned a trade. He learned he worked at a truck place where they took old trucks and they shined them up and turned them into new trucks. And he buffed the wheels out and fixed the fenders and...
It's a diversion program is
Yeah,
what it is.
a diversion program,
It's a
that's it.
6-month program.
6 months.
And if they do well, it could be as short as 4.5
Yeah.
months.
But the thing about that program was, it taught him responsibility. It taught him work ethic, because the man he worked for, I talked to him several times, and he wanted Jason to stay there after he was done. He offered him a pretty good job, but he wanted to come back home.
What I'm saying is, if this is something the board wanted to pursue, where do they go?
Yeah.
Who do they go to?
I would like to see us talk with the sheriff about what plans and just kind of go through some of our ideas, and then work with the folks at the regional jail to see if they would allow us to try a pilot program of doing a garden maybe this spring.
We have folks at the regional jail on our board.
Right. And Bill, and so I was thinking if that's something that we could explore at this point in time, then look to see how much something like that would cost. Then if those programs go well, then maybe we could start looking, because I do not see the state starting to pick up their inmates earlier.
Yeah.
I think it will continue to be longer and longer stays in our local jails.
Well, this has been going on for quite a while, right? That they've had the inmates stay longer than they should.
Jail people on that board, we have River Valley Jail.
I just think, where do we go? You know, where do we start, and how can we do it? And if we all agree that this is a worthwhile thing, then how do we give direction to the administrator?
I've given them a starting point. The NRV Cares, River Valley Community Action. We have people on the CARES board from the DOC, from the judiciary, from the regional jails, both New River and Western River. So, and they are working on some programs, but I don't know if they get anywhere.
And I think then it behooves us on this board to work with the county administrator so that this is not something that just is totally dumped, you know, in that area. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Well, I think that the first thing we have to realize that the regional jail is governed by an authority. Mm-hmm. And if Montgomery comes in wanting to do this and the other members don't want to do it, it's nixed right then and there. So it takes the majority of the authority to give direction to the superintendent and to move on with programs like that. Now, it can be asked, you know, or ask what they think about it, or think about it for this meeting and come back and talk about it next meeting, or they could say, well, we don't think it's going to work, or we just have to listen to how the response would come.
Do they have public address at your meetings?
Yeah, they have
So
public
Chris
address
could come to a meeting and bring it up if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you think that they would have the
They might not let you in.
inmates?
They let me out all
They
the
would have
time.
their own inmates out there rather than someone else.
What is it, 700 and some in there? if I'm not mistaken?
Average 700
and then,
plus.
And then when you start looking at security and you look at people and things like that, whether they have the staff the staffing is, I believe, would probably be one of the issues down there.
And I
of getting them out and things like that.
That's why I say I understand it will cost money to be able to get them out. We will have. That's why I don't want the authority to think, well, we want you to do this, but we're not going to pay for it. And we want you to experiment, but we don't want you to pay. We don't want to pay. That's why I'm saying it will cost money.
I would think it would take a committee to study whatever prior to any kind of implementation of it, you know, pros and cons, some sort of type of committee with people with a little knowledge
with Franklin County and Roanoke
County and things like
members.
that, and to see, you know, have some projected cost and so forth. Just I mean, I don't think you just go in there and tell the superintendent you need to do this. He needs to have some guidance and what's right and what's proper.
And to give it an idea, I was running numbers at the jail. We've got roughly 90, but then there's another 180 roughly that we've got down there ballpark, I mean, in one day or another, it may go up, it may go down.
It's about 700 in there, yeah.
So, but I was just thinking of folks that we're paying for.
Yeah.
And our jail here's pretty full too.
It's a good program, but it's a regional jail. I don't see how they could treat our prisons any different than the other prisons that they take in. We pay, I guess it's per diem, a usage cost.
Yes, sir.
And he says, we want you to spend a little bit more. Montgomery's prisons,
And
and
that won't work.
Franklin counties, and Roanoke counties. I'm just throwing it out.
I know, and
I mean,
one
I
of the
support
things
what
I'm
you're
saying, hey, let's experiment. If it doesn't work,
Yeah.
if it doesn't turn out to be a good program, but who knows, that maybe if they run it fine, and Franklin County, their food pantry gets some food from it, and then Roanoke County's food pantry gets something from it, or they use the food there, and I do believe there may be some state regulations, but I think that the regional jail at the New River, they've got a garden going on. I saw it up on the hill.
Really?
So, you know, and it looked like it was inside the wire. So, but they also have solar panels there.
All right, every job we take away from outside people,
I better go some help, Jim.
you know, that's our other problem. It's a balancing act. Are you done, Supervisor Tuck?
I am done.
Thank you. Supervisor Brown.
Well, I guess it's one thing. I received a letter from the, I guess it's the Historical Review Board, and informing me in that letter was that the folks at Price's Forecast requested to expand their historical district. And so I look at the letter, and it's sort of, I guess they sent it to me as the supervisor in that area, and it's a website that you can go on. I said, well, you know, it's not bad. And then when I go on the website and look, what they're requesting is for the Price's Fork School to be in their historic district, the old Price's Fork School. And my thinking, instead of me writing some comments, A or B, but it's a county-owned school. Every taxpayer in Montgomery County has paid for that school and are owners of that school. That I think that if it's any kind of comment, it should be one way or the other, should come from this board because it involves board property, so to speak. And I see three things. I mean, they want the comments by September 20th, and there's three options. I don't know whether that school being included in the historical district would limit the use out there as far as selling it for the highest use or whatever. That would put parameters on it.
It does.
Okay.
It would.
So
It would.
It would.
and so that's a thing that we as a board might want to think about. And I see three things. You cannot do anything and just let it take its course. You can voice opposition just for the school being included, or you can support it. And so I'm throwing it out there for the board to decide on what to do with that request. And it came to Supervisor Brown, and it's got a thing for comments on it, and it's got a little website on it that you went to, and you can see the district and so forth. But when it involved the school, I think it should be a board decision.
Supervisor, who's the organization? Which is the organization that sent you the letter?
Wherever you submit from, if you want this to become a historic district, it's someplace in Richmond. I think it's. I don't have the letter with me.
Cultural Resources.
Yeah.
We've got a copy. Marty has the information as well, and Steve, Sandy, and I are all looking at it. It looks fairly innocent, but you've
Yeah.
got to be careful.
Right, because it really does limit what you can do with a building, because you have to keep it within the parameters of when it was built and all this kind of stuff, and maintain, like you can't go outside of certain. It would affect what would happen if you tried to sell it, because if you put it in there, then whoever buys it has to keep it in that, with all the rules. Just like happened to that lady in Blacksburg with all the mess that she had trying to sell
right across the table
her.
shop.
Yeah, see, that was the same thing. It's a big, yeah.
Can't destroy the building.
You have to be really, and you can only do certain things.
I think it's different than what you're referring to. You're referring to in a local historical district where
Yeah.
property is limited and what you can do. according to the literature we got from the state, it was a state board that does it, they said it would not affect what the property owner can do with their property. If you tore down the school, the end result would be the property no longer be in the historical district.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a state historical distinction of designation. It's completely different than the ordinance that you're talking about. with
And
Glasgow. Now, we need to confirm that.
Yeah.
It was written on that piece of
Right.
paper, said property owners aren't limited in the ways they can use
Then
it.
why would you put it in if it doesn't do anything?
It's a good point.
That makes no
Is it a major
sense.
tax benefit?
One thing it does do, they say, is that it makes available historical credits for rehabbing the structure.
Yeah, tax, yeah, not-
Which could be a
not
positive.
income tax.
Yeah, that could be a positive.
Yeah, because I think we do have a commitment to all the citizens of Montgomery County. Hopefully, that group is going to be able to get a very competitive bid. Hopefully, that group is going to be able to do some things with that property. But if they can, I think we've got a commitment to the other citizens of Montgomery County.
I think one thing to think about is if we come out and support it, if it's staying in that historical district, are we sending a message that that school is going to remain there? We don't know if it will or not, because we don't know what the highest best use will be. It could be someone that tears it down and develops it, or it could be someone who makes it into offices or some other use. So keep that in mind.
Anything else, Mr. Brown?
Is there a timeline attached to the letter in any way?
Responses have to be back to the state by September 20th, I believe.
Right.
That's
September
correct.
9th, that's what I
Here,
remember.
up in Petersburg, they'll send written comments.
Right.
Okay. When was there a sense of decision time though? Like when they would?
Once, I think that's just the first phase, is comments need to be.
Do we have a deed in Montgomery County's name yet from the Montgomery County School Board?
No.
When, may I ask, do we expect to get a deed?
They haven't officially surplused it, but we've started the title work in getting all that in place.
And that's something we're going to need to,
Doesn't county own it?
no, and I think the school board thinks they have surplused it, because in talking to the superintendent, the comment was made that when they adopted the, they said that the Prices Fork school would be surplus 6 months after the occupancy of the new Prices Fork. But I don't know that.
I'd rather adopt another resolution.
Yeah.
Well,
Surplus.
I picked that up at our last county school liaison meeting. I think they have, but I don't think we've got the legal piece that we need to check that out. That being said, we're still moving it forward as much as we can, but
It won't take long. I mean, like I said, title work's being done now. Due diligence. So.
Okay. Supervisor Biggs?
Well, I don't have a lengthy report. I just wanted to thank everyone for their good thoughts and for my flowers, and I really appreciated that. And I want to thank Craig and Carol for getting this community meeting process started, because that's something that I think has a lot of potential, and I'm glad that you guys sort of got it going.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Perkins?
All right. This is the year for communication. I've been at 3 meetings this week, and that's about all we've talked about. The PDC did have its evaluation. One of the big things there, we met with focus groups, and some of you all were involved in those. The primary thing was to get out the information to people about what the PDC does and what its value is to the region, because it does include the 4 counties and the city of Radford that are considered very essential parts of the New River Valley. And so I think part of that is to have your representative, which happens to be me at this point, to bring some information back to you. I know that in our, now on our Dropbox and everywhere also, and the county administrator's report, we do have the monthly agenda and items that are discussed, but we're beginning to move in another direction in terms of what is the real and true reason why the Planning District Commission exists. And so I'll try to be communicating that a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. Then Pepper's Ferry. We had this past week the ultraviolet
UV disinfection.
I guess it's called UV disinfection building. To look at it, it's very simple, very small building, but there is massive amounts of concrete and everything in this building, but more than that, it's a computer setup. And the dedication of that building was on last Thursday, the 23rd. It is the most amazing setup that you can see. I mean, you think, well, we have, no longer do they have to use chlorine. The ultraviolet disinfection is far better than chlorine, and no longer do we have to have some of those dangerous chemicals sitting right on our doorstep. It's quite a unique building, and it's quite a good building. We have very little that we are involved with as far as Pepper's Ferry is concerned, wastewater treatment facility. Mostly just Plum Creek area is the only place that we have right now that's involved with the Pepper's Ferry. But we do have, I sit on the authority, so therefore we do have representation, and the PSA director also goes and is kind of the alternate. But that was a very nice situation, and it certainly means that they can treat millions and millions and millions of waste there. I think we're probably not aware of how much these people do in terms of how they have to deal with the EQ regulations and EPA regulations, certain chemicals that we from time to time get through that facility is amazing, because there's certain chemicals that have very definite limits, and that's something I think Jim, maybe your committee on VACO talks a little bit about that in terms of the limits of the amounts of chemicals that can go through that whole situation. Remember, it takes in Pulaski, Floyd, just a small part of Montgomery, Giles, and the city of Bradford. It all goes through there. And from time to time, various and sundry businesses that are supposed to have pre-treatments and that sort of thing, all of them, all of our people should have pre-treatment before they go into this. We just had to put some new digesters in and treat them because of some of the corrosive elements that are out there as far as the waste that goes through that particular plant. But anyway, we've done that, and we've now got this ultraviolet disinfection, and you have to be part of this and sit there to understand what's really going on. I certainly have very little knowledge, even though I've been sitting on this authority for a long period of time. Then the other thing I just wanted to talk about was the meeting that we had in Richmond with VACO that I was able to go to, and Jim was there, and Craig was there. I think that was it. But it was a very dismal situation in terms of what we can expect from the state, particularly for the Education Committee, and the fact that the state has reduced its commitments. Even though we got a lump sum of money back, so much money was taken away that when you get a lump sum back, it's not at all equal to what is taken away from you. So we'll be looking at that, I'm sure, as the budget comes along, because it's going to be another very dismal situation. But anyway, it was a good meeting. I will say that there's a very large number of people that are new to VACO. I was very surprised that a lot of the people that I know and that I've seen in the past, not there anymore. I don't know where they are, but they're not there, and they're not part of the committees. We did have one community that withdrew from VACO. You probably read about that. It was Goochland, and the primary reason they withdrew from VACO was Agenda 21. And that was discussed there also. Not in my committee, but in Jim's, I think, committee. Jim didn't get to do his hemp presentation, but he will get to. He's going back on the 20th of September to do that. So they've been very receptive to having him speak. But that's it. We will keep you informed at the next meeting for most of these VACO committees, even though Jim's will meet in September, and he can tell you what they discussed. Is a very broad range of topics. Then the next meetings are in November, when we have our annual meeting. Thank you. And we're glad to have Ms. Biggs back.
Mr. Creed.
Just got one thing, and did Mr. Kitts get notification that he is on the highway safety?
I'm nearly positive he did, because Judy Kaiser handles that.
And the reason I'm asking, our meeting has been changed 3 different times, and if someone would, I forget the date of it. I don't know, it's the 12th or the 22nd, I think, but I don't know.
We'll find out.
But if you call the sheriff's office and make sure that they have his particulars in order to get him in on that first meeting he could possibly get in on, would be good.
We'll follow up tomorrow and make sure that's done.
Important, but that's all I have.
Okay. I have a couple things. We had a tourism meeting last week.
Thursday.
And we met our new tourism director. And seems to be a very qualified and knowledgeable person. We're doing Eggs and Issues on the first Thursday at 7:30 at the Holiday Inn. And I've asked
September 6th.
if we could introduce her to the chamber people, and she'll be there for that. And I believe Scott Hill is going to do the introduction. He's on the, he's a representative of the...
September 6th.
Thursday morning at 7:30.
And so that's going to be kind of exciting. Then Gary and I attended the Pulaski picnic on Sunday. Was it Saturday? Sunday. And it was a very, very nice event. We were treated very well and fed very well. Probably too much, but it was a real good event. And then, of course, I was at the backcountry ribbon shopping, and that was, as Craig said, and that's a very, very good event. Went to the Transportation Committee meeting at VACO, along with the Ag meeting, and I was able to bring up, they started talking about devolution a little bit, and nobody really knows where that's at, but we kind of feel like it's coming.
It's coming.
And so I brought up my alternative paving system, and had several people want to find out more about that, and hopefully we'll be getting some information this week, and we're going to test it here. And other than that, they're talking about increasing rail in Tidewater, in DC area, and doing something with Tidewater, and, you know, one project over there, they could pave and repair all of Southwest Virginia. So, and I let them know that too. But, it was about as depressing as a school and finance committee meeting. So, other than that, that's all I have. If there's no other business,
So
no more?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
The first one I saw that came down from the state